From its humble beginnings as a nerdy hobby in 1958 to becoming a massive industry with a presence across the globe, video games and esports have been on a wild journey that has completely changed people's perceptions and made an impact beyond anyone's wildest dreams. In the start, prize pools for esports were not only rare, but if you're lucky, winning a tournament could result in getting a year's subscription to the valuable Rolling Stones magazines. Fast forward to where we are today, winning a tournament not only means you actually get money, it means you get so much money that it outscales the amount mainstream sports and athletes receive. This has not only helped the gaming industry receive traditional media coverage and fame, but has also helped it become a legitimate career option, either as a pro gamer, content creator, or developer. Calling the widespread success of video games a surprise would be an understatement, because if we go back even a few years, the general perception was that video games at their best were only a means for children to entertain themselves when they were bored, especially with regards to most parents. But with the rise of popular streaming and video platforms, along with massive prize pools for tournaments, this medium finally started to get recognition for what it is. It is a piece of media that is equal parts artistic genius, a competitive gauntlet, and a masterclass in software development with real people in the center of it all. Far beyond the original perception of being a mere toy or a plaything, gaming today has proven to not only be fiscally viable, but a proven method of immense commercial success. So with that being said, let's dive in and look at how one small pebble created an unstoppable avalanche.
Got the quad kill in the ace! What is this? Maker, what was that?
But no boots of travel.
Oh,
Coil on two.
CP as well!
The sleep, the surge, he catches everyone. Oh, this could be a total disaster. Vacuum in, Ravage on everyone. The black hole as well. Light of heaven turns it around. Ravage as well. Stolen by Dandy. Are you kidding me? They turn it around. 4 heroes dead.
The story for esports starts in 1972 with a tournament held at Stanford University for the game Space War. This is the one that had the Rolling Stone subscription as the winner's prize. It's not to be confused with that shady game you might be seeing played on Steam. Being the first tournament of its kind, there's not a lot to be said here, but what's really surprising here is that this radar detection system cosplay was not only a game, but it was actually played competitively. We might not have the competitive gaming scene we have today if this first step was never taken, so we gotta give respect where it's due. The next notable step in esports came with Sega, who held a tournament for their table hockey game back in 1974. This had a decent turnout to the event, along with better prizes like color TVs, black and white TVs, cassette recorders, and transistor radios. This was a very different time. Also, I'm not really sure if table hockey counts as esports, but the Olympics now considers chess as esports, which is a whole other can of worms to open, but more importantly, in the case of this video, Wikipedia thinks table hockey counts, and that's my main source of info. A bit later in 1977, a company that Sega owned did a whole marketing campaign where two pro arcade players went across America challenging players to a game of hustle, which is basically Snake. But the crazy thing is that this duo, no wait, not that one, this one, won against nearly 1,300 players in the process. This also apparently got $1.5 million in orders for the game, which is huge considering the size of the industry back then. This helped video games get more recognition, and the public finally started to realize that games might actually be here to stay. Because moving forward by just a year began the golden age of arcade video games. This was the era when the industry experienced a sizable surge fueled by popular games like Donkey Kong, Mario, and Pac-Man, the high score record holder of which even got congratulated by the US president at the time, Ronald Reagan. But at the start of this rise was one game that set the trend and revolutionized the entire industry, not just from my understanding after reading Wikipedia, but also according to Nintendo's Shigeru Miyamoto, who is in many ways the father of modern day gaming. On the 1st of April 1978, Space Invaders was released in Japan and brought with it a landmark feature that shaped the trajectory of esports specifically to what we have today. This was the introduction of the world to the concept of high scores. It might sound absurd considering how common it is now, but back then, the high score in Space Invaders was a game-changing innovation, the impact of which cannot be understated. To simplify, this enabled competing against other people that usually comes with games that actively track your points, your kill-death assist ratio, a grade report at the end of a mission, or the fact that people like to share their speedrun times. This single mechanic is behind all of them and helped establish the tradition of high score chasing that became the bread and butter of gaming as a whole, and has also laid the path to popularity for multiple different games, which in turn took the industry to even greater heights. This was also a defining moment for esports' future as an organized competition, because this also gave us a stat that can be utilized in tournaments to judge player performances. which is exactly what happened when Atari hosted the biggest competition of its kind for Space Invaders, which helped gaming become a mainstream hobby. However, for the next few years, the state of esports would remain pretty much the same, as tournament formats would just consistently use the same high score formula. This did lead to some gamers like Billy Mitchell achieving some degree of stardom with games like Pac-Man, but the esports scene was mostly stagnant. That is until one game changed everything. On the 7th of March 1991, Capcom developed and released Street Fighter II. While this wasn't the first ever fighting game, nor was it even the first ever Street Fighter, but what it was the third best-selling arcade game of all time, behind only the first of its kind in Space Invaders and the iconic Pac-Man. While the game was amazing in multiple ways, including the graphics and characters, the gameplay specifically was so exceptionally innovative and transformative that many, especially including the fans, consider it to be the most influential game of all time. And in the perspective of competitive gaming, it most certainly is. At least the developer for Doom thought so, and that game is regarded as the father of FPS. So in a wider sense, when we're looking at games that involve playing with another person, whether it's Mortal Kombat, COD, Halo, League of Legends, Dota, Fortnite, StarCraft, Sonic 2006, or literally any other multiplayer game, if we start tracing them back, Street Fighter II is where it all started. Aside from Tennis for Two, which wasn't nearly as successful. It gave most people in the 90s their first ever taste of the straight up trash-talking, ass-whooping, earth-shattering, mind-blowing possibilities that gaming could bring to life by just letting people straight up face off with each other. No high scores, no levels, purely a direct battle on equal footing, unless I'm playing with someone that actually knows what they're doing. Fuck you, Zen. More importantly, this helped establish the Evolution Championship Series, which is a fighting game tournament which continues to be hosted to this day, with 2023 having the biggest numbers in terms of player participation. And remember Doom? During the same time, it also created the whole online multiplayer community that is enormous at this point, from mobile gaming to VR to good old consoles and PCs. If you can play online with people, here is where it started. From this point onwards, the esports scene was on an upwards trajectory, with newer games adding variety and diversity, helping make games more accessible to a bigger audience, which in turn created an even bigger esports scene, which in turn brought even more money. But there was still one last jump before the esports community reached its current heights, and that was the rise of streaming and video platforms. This allowed anyone from anywhere in the world to just broadcast their favorite game that they would normally sink their days, months, and years into, now finally getting an audience that they can share that passion with, and in the process improve the game and their own gameplay. At this point, the sheer number of genres that are played competitively are staggering, including MOBAs, fighting games, first-person shooters, card games, battle royales, and real-time strategies. But there's one thing we must consider. While sports is open for anyone, esports are owned and run by organizations. If they were to shut down the game, it would mean the whole esports scene shuts down along with them. And that would be quite sad for pretty much any game, whether it's Microsoft Excel or not. But that pretty much covers the history of esports. I didn't want to cover most of the stuff that we're seeing nowadays. I wanted to mostly cover the history and the backstory behind esports because I found that kind of interesting and I wanted to know where it all started from. And if you enjoyed the video, I definitely appreciate if you subscribe. If not, well, cheers, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.